Anatomy of human lungs. The human lungs are essential respiratory organs responsible for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, a process crucial for sustaining life. Here is an overview of the anatomy of the human lungs. Location. The lungs are situated in the thoracic cavity on either side of the heart. The right lung is divided into three lobes, upper, middle and lower, while the left lung has two lobes, upper and lower, to accommodate the space occupied by the heart. Structure. Each lung is enclosed by a double-layered membrane known as the pleura. The outer layer, the parietal pleura, lines the chest cavity, while the inner layer, the visceral pleura, covers the lung surface. Bronchial tree. The trachea or windpipe branches into two primary bronchi, one for each lung. Inside the lungs, these bronchi further divide into smaller bronchi and bronchioles, forming the bronchial tree. Bronchioles and alveoli. Bronchioles are small, branching airways that lead to clusters of tiny air sacs called alveoli. Alveoli are the site of gas exchange, where oxygen from the inhaled air diffuses into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide is expelled. Alveolar sac. Alveoli are arranged in clusters called alveolar sacs, and they have thin walls that allow for efficient gas exchange. The extensive surface area of alveoli enhances the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the lungs and the bloodstream. Pulmonary capillaries. Surrounding each alveolus are pulmonary capillaries, tiny blood vessels that transport deoxygenated blood from the body to the lungs. Oxygen from the alveoli diffuses into the blood, while carbon dioxide moves from the blood into the alveoli for exhalation. Blood supply. The lungs receive a dual blood supply. The pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs, while the pulmonary veins transport oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the heart. Diaphragm and respiratory muscles. The diaphragm is the primary muscle involved in breathing. When it contracts, it moves downward, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity and causing air to be drawn into the lungs. Relaxation of the diaphragm results in exhalation. Pleural cavity. The pleural cavity is the space between the layers of the pleura surrounding each lung. It contains a small amount of fluid that lubricates the surfaces, reducing friction as the lungs expand and contract during breathing. Nerve supply. The lungs are innervated by the autonomic nervous system, which controls involuntary functions. The parasympathetic and sympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system regulate bronchoconstriction and bronchodilation, influencing airflow. Understanding the anatomy of the human lungs is crucial for comprehending respiratory function, the exchange of gases, and the mechanisms involved in breathing. It's a complex system designed to efficiently oxygenate the blood and eliminate carbon dioxide, supporting the body's metabolic processes. Working process of lungs. The working process of the lungs involves the complex mechanisms of respiration, which includes breathing and the exchange of gases in the alveoli. The process can be broken down into several key steps. Inhalation. The process begins with inhalation. The diaphragm, the primary muscle of respiration, contracts and moves downward, while the intercostal muscles between the ribs also contract, lifting the rib cage. This expansion of the thoracic cavity increases its volume, creating negative pressure inside the lungs. As a result of the negative pressure, air is drawn into the lungs through the airways from the external environment. The air travels through the nose or mouth, down the trachea and into the bronchial tree, reaching the smaller bronchioles and eventually the alveoli. Gas exchange in the alveoli. In the alveoli, which are tiny air sacs at the end of the bronchial tree, oxygen from the inhaled air diffuses through the thin alveolar walls into the pulmonary capillaries. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide, a waste product produced by cellular metabolism, diffuses from the blood into the alveoli. This process is facilitated by the high surface area of the alveoli and the thinness of the alveolar walls, optimizing the exchange of gases between the air and the bloodstream. Transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygenated blood is carried away from the lungs by the pulmonary veins, while the deoxygenated blood is transported to the lungs via the pulmonary arteries. The oxygenated blood is then pumped by the heart to various tissues and organs throughout the body, providing the cells with the oxygen they need for metabolic processes. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide produced by cellular metabolism is transported in the bloodstream back to the lungs. In the alveoli, carbon dioxide is released into the air during exhalation. Exhalation. Exhalation is a passive process that occurs as the diaphragm and intercostal muscles relax. This reduces the volume of the thoracic cavity, increasing the pressure within the lungs. As a result of the increased pressure, air is expelled from the lungs, carrying carbon dioxide with it. This exhaled air is released into the external environment through the airways, completing the respiratory cycle. Regulation of breathing. The rate and depth of breathing are regulated by the respiratory control centers in the brainstem, specifically the medulla oblongata and the pons. These centers respond to changes in blood levels of oxygen, carbon dioxide and pH, adjusting the respiratory rate to maintain optimal conditions for cellular function. This entire process of breathing and gas exchange is continuous and vital for maintaining the balance of gases in the body. The respiratory system ensures that oxygen is delivered to the cells for energy production and that carbon dioxide, a waste product, is efficiently removed. The coordinated action of muscles, the elasticity of lung tissues, and regulatory mechanisms work together to support the respiratory process.